So, will Donald Trump and his new administration cause a recession in 2025? That's the subject of today's video. And in fact, we have some new data to go over. We got some stuff from China, the UK, and an interesting survey coming out from Financial Times and Chicago Booth School of Business. Essentially, if you guys have been following the story, the Fed is going to announce their rate decision this week. The market is betting 97% chance of a rate cut. So, I mean, essentially, they're kind of saying, hey, a cut is guaranteed. That's the market. And in my opinion, that's kind of nuts. The Fed could hold, but everyone's like, no, they're going to cut. Now, what that signals to me is the Fed is more concerned about growth than they are inflation, meaning that the Fed is trying to avoid a recession. So that's sort of where the Fed is leaning on. If the Fed does not cut this week, watch out for a market freak out because markets don't like surprises. So again, 97% chance, according to the market, of a Fed cut, and I think it's going to be 25 basis points. Now, regarding the Chicago Business School poll, they asked economists, "What do you think about next year? What do you think about 2026?" So the current projections right now, they're looking at recession in 2026, so not 2025. It could be first quarter 2026 or third quarter 2026. I mean, it's hard to predict that far in the future, but that's sort of the projections that we're looking at the moment. They're also thinking, okay, the Fed's not going to cut as much as we originally thought. Why? Well, this is something that the Fed has to balance is you're like, okay, are we more worried about inflation or are we more worried about growth? And I mean, they're essentially worried about both. But with Trump's policies coming in, they look to be inflationary. So the economists are basically saying, I think Trump's going to cause way more inflation. Now, on top of that, and this is where I think recession is probably very, very likely, you have slowdowns around the world. So you have the Fed in USA worried about slowdowns in USA, and then you have definite slowdowns around the world. You put the two together, you got Donald Trump as president and his unstable administration and unqualified administration. To be perfectly frank, it's a recipe for disaster. So this is sort of where you need to protect yourself out there. In regards to internationally, because I always try to give you guys a broad perspective on things, we have a very large contingent of viewers that are from the UK. And I pose this question to you. There's this really fascinating article coming from the UK basically saying companies are delisting from your stock exchange and then moving to the New York Stock Exchange, which is kind of interesting. Let me read just a little bit about this, and I want to get your opinion, especially from people from the UK. So basically, they're exiting or Brexiting, I guess you could say, from the UK and heading to the USA. This is a headline: London Stock Exchange suffers biggest exodus since financial crisis. So that'd be referring to 2008, 2009, and that's essentially, again, they're leaving and going into New York. It says the London Stock Exchange is on course for its worst year for departures since financial crisis as fears mount. More FTSE 100 businesses will quit the UK in favor of New York. This is crazy. I guess they just don't trust your guys' market. That's why I want to hear from people in the UK on this. A total of 88 companies have delisted or transferred their primary listings from London's main market this year, only 18 taking their place. So, I can't speak to it. I don't, I don't live in England or UK, however you want to call it. I don't trade on the London Stock Exchange, so I just don't know what people are saying over there, and that's why I want to hear from you guys. I'll just say this: a couple of stuff that they mentioned is that just capital is more free flowing in the U.S., but we're in a bubble in the U.S., so I don't know necessarily want to enter in the bubble here. The other arguments they were giving is that valuations are better in USA, better in terms of you can get more money. People are more willing to bet on your growth, but that's on American companies. So I don't know if, no, no one knows. That's they're going to try, but I guess the bet is that, we're going to try to get more money from the American market. But I would say no one knows if it's going to work for sure. But I guess most companies or many companies, I don't know if most the right word, but many companies are saying we'll take our chances with the U.S. capital markets. The other thing too is I think maybe the structure of when you bring a company over, maybe you make more money from the banker's perspective, that kind of stuff. But regardless of what's going on, I just want to hear from people in the UK if you have faith in your markets or not. So there's that. The other bit of data we have, which is actually pretty important, is data from China. And essentially, it was weak consumer data. Basically, they're having a hard time getting people to spend. That's what it boils down to. And when you're dealing with, modern consumer markets, you need people to keep spending. Like for example, the consumers need to buy your new iPhone, and then people in the USA can celebrate because hey, more iPhone sales and the stocks go up, and we were invested in the company, and they make more iPhones and they sell them, and the cycle keeps repeating, right? But this day and age, with the housing market essentially meltdown in China, and they have deflation, so prices are actually going down. People are just really nervous and aren't spending, and there was a surprise in data where essentially it came in much weaker than thought. There were some interesting, actually, particulars, which I'll tell you guys. Yeah, it's right here. The weakening in retail sales was surprising, following strong sales of home appliances and cars a month ago. So, like, they're like, hey, home appliances are up, cars are up, we're doing all right. But the cars one's a funny one. It was kind of artificially boosted because China was running this cash for clunkers thing. And this is funny because it relates to Tesla news, which I should probably do a separate video because Tesla people won't see this video probably because they only watch Tesla stuff. But essentially, all of the Tesla bulls were bragging. They were like, "Oh my God, it's so awesome! Tesla sales are great for the first week of December in China." But it was because of this cash for clunkers program by the Chinese government. So basically, what it was is you would trade in your car, and you would get like double than you normally get on the trade-in because the government was subsidizing that, right? Essentially, what they want to do is they want to get the old combustion cars off the road and get you into an electric vehicle. So that's probably something that none of the Tesla people will tell you because, to be perfectly frank, I'm a little bit mean here. They're illiterate. It's like I said, I'm a little bit mean, but it's actually a really interesting program, and I've been hearing this for a while now that the China's really working on trying to get their emissions down. So they've been working on trying to get a lot more EVs on the road and just get business going. But they can't necessarily do that forever because people run out of cars to trade in. And the other thing is, the Chinese government may be like, yo, we don't necessarily have enough money to keep subsidizing that. So that's actually a really interesting point. So the data before was like, appliances and car sales were up, but then it just came, that was last month, and then it just came out this month, and I can tell you, it says, while sales of those two categories remained strong in November, so that was the car sales and appliances, the other stuff that was down was cosmetics was down, like it says at 26% down, clothing, jewelry, beverages, tobacco, and alcohol, so all of those categories, so people just aren't shopping, essentially what it is. The other part is joblessness in China is at 5%, just to guys give you some idea. I didn't check what the unemployment for the youth is, but I'm sure it's still high. It's been high for a while. Unemployment for youth is high here in Korea, and I believe it's high in Canada. I don't know the numbers in UK right offhand. You guys can let me know on that. And then also this was another big number, which could probably be a headline in itself. I'll tell you what it is. This is in China. Property investment fell 10.4% in the period, slightly worse from a slump of 10.3% in the first 10 months. And I think essentially what you're looking at is just like there's no money there, right? So and when you talk about China, their economy, I can't remember the part of the GPA. I think it's like high 80s or 90% like that. Like a big part of where people put their money is essentially real estate because they don't trust their markets. It's kind of similar to here in Korea. People put all their money in real estate. So when you hear like property investment is down by double digits, it's actually a really serious thing, and then that bleeds into people aren't necessarily willing to go consumer shopping. The other thing too, which I wanted to mention, which is kind of interesting, I've been hearing bits about, you hear every now and then, President Xi will remove, someone here and there. But it seems like he just keeps doing that, and that's in the military. So what does that mean? I mean, are they going to go more aggressive towards Taiwan or something like that? I mean, I can't tell other than what we see, right? So I know they're doing more military exercises around Taiwan, and I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I'll just say that he's reorganizing the sort of like who's going to be most loyal to him in the military, and there's that. The other issue as well, there's one more thing here. Yeah, it was the Starbucks thing. It was actually kind of funny. The headline is Starbucks hires first China growth officer to boost sales. So I guess they've never done that before in their history. Essentially, they're having more competition. I think Luckin Coffee is one of their competition. Here in Korea, it's actually the same thing. We had a very similar article recently that came out. It wasn't just Starbucks, it was multiple coffee chains. They're now offering, I'm talking about Korea. So in China, they're hiring a new, growth manager person. That's like a new position. And then here in Korea, they have like this subscription service to coffee. And I don't know if they're doing that in USA. Starbucks has it in a couple other coffee chains, but the basic idea is like give them $30 a month or something like that. And for some places, it's like after 2 p.m. We'll give you a discount on coffee. Other places, like all the time, we'll give you 10%, or after certain, and other ones is like after a certain time, we'll give you a free drink every day. And this is sort of what they've been trying to do to boost sales. Because I'm just giving an example here in Korea. There's a lot of like low cost coffee everywhere these days, and just a lot more competition. So that's what's going on as a whole. And to summarize, you have slowdowns around the world. You have essentially lack of confidence in markets in China, and obviously in the UK as they're moving over to the US market. You have an overvalued American market. And then I just made a video on the real estate thing where I don't think Trump's going to help with that. And then Trump has inflationary policies coming in, and economists are worried about that. So I know we cover a lot of stuff when we go over these videos, but I just try to give you a fuller picture as best I can. Please be careful out there, and please share your thoughts. I always love hearing from you guys, and I'll catch you on the next video.